Hey, have you seen some of the video of Jaylen Milroe spinning the rock lately? If you haven't, you ought to check out X.com.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and I'll tell you about FanDuel in just a bit. And thanks for making us your first listen every single day. Jimmy, we're going to start with some assorted news. We missed yesterday. You were traveling a lot, and it was all your fault. So
I hear that a lot.
Some things have happened, and we're going to do like a whole episode after this one, I think, on the status of college football, because things are getting weird. But that really takes a whole podcast. And so I thought right now we'd continue with your countdown and also talk about some assorted news of the day. Maybe the biggest news to me, and I mean, again, just Bama, is there's some video out there of Jaylen Milroe working with Jordan Palmer, who's Carson Palmer's brother, one of the best QB coaches in the country. And his release looks better. Again, maybe I'm looking for optimism here. I'm usually on the other end of the spectrum, by the way, but maybe I'm just looking at the bright side of life. But boy, it feels like just some of the video, Milroe looks a lot better the way he's slinging it.
Well, Jordan Palmer is an excellent QB coach. Look, if anyone, I understand that Milroe having some doubters, but no one should doubt his work ethic. I mean, Milroe works at it. You know what it reminds me of is Jalen Hurts. I mean, Milroe works at it. He's relentless.
Let me cut you off for a second because I want to say this, then I'm going to let you rant.
No.
You don't look like Jalen Hurts and Jaylen Milroe unless you have a kick butt work ethic. And you're good with words. But no, you don't look like those guys just naturally. I mean,
that's right.
You just don't. So if you see a dude like that, you're like, oh, I know he's a worker.
That's right. Yeah. And in his spare time, he works another 24 hours a day on the football end of things, whether it's them. Just think of this, Jaylen Milroe. I mean, Jordan Palmer's in California, usually. So now he might work all over, and Jordan may come to him with the way NIL money works, the way these quarterbacks have it these days. But Jaylen Milroe working with Jordan Palmer, then he goes to Tampa to work with Yo Murphy and his group, bringing a lot of football players with him. Several Alabama football players are there with Jaylen Milroe in Tampa, including Emmanuel Henderson. Great story by Charlie Potter on BOL. Everybody should go check that out. Charlie really worked on that, had some great interviews with Yo Murphy, who runs that training program in Tampa. But Jaylen Milroe's there, and Ty Simpson's there. Emmanuel Henderson's there. Jaron Hamilton is there. I think Haynes and Richard Young are there. C.J. Dupree is there. So, and Jaylen and Ty. Ty didn't go to Tampa last year because Ty was rehabbing that thumb injury and he couldn't throw the ball this time of year a year ago. But, boy, Jaylen Milroe works around the clock. Some of that work, to me, is paying off. And you watch Jaylen Milroe deliver the ball, it looks to me like his mechanics have been tweaked. I think it comes out faster. I think there's a quicker release. The velocity's always been there. I think Milroe could be on the verge of something great. But, hey, most of these kids improve year to year. I'm expecting to see an improved Jaylen Milroe because he's had more coaching from more people. He's in a more quarterback-friendly offense. Look at the numbers Penix put up playing in this offense a year ago. He's got a good wide receiver group. Jeremy Bernard's going to make a difference, a real positive difference, I believe. I think Milroe's going to have a good year. But we have to remember, most kids do improve year to year. I'm expecting to see a better Jaylen Milroe in 2024.
And there's a picture on Bama Online that shows, in order, Justice Haynes, Emmanuel Henderson, Jaron Hamilton, Milroe, and Richard Young. And, I mean, dare I say that Richard Young and Justice Haynes look like absolute monsters. They look like something out of Pokemon.
Our kids work pretty hard. Everybody's kids do, but Milroe looks like $1 million. He'll be a real interesting player at the NFL Combine when that comes around for him. But Jalen's working extremely hard. May is a different month. For a lot of people that don't know this, is when we were all growing up, May was the month that all of our players returned home to their homes and found jobs. They worked during the month of May to make money that they would have in their pockets when they returned to Tuscaloosa in the summertime. That's what used to happen in May. But now that they all make NIL money and Alston money and all the money, and now we'll get into the revenue sharing in the next show, but now they make all that money, they actually spend their own money on trainers. And now they train throughout the month of May with their own private coaches that they pick out. Every position, quarterbacks do this, but the offensive linemen do this. They all do it. They train during the month of May with experts. And some hardworking kids. So the month of May has really changed. Now, June 1st, which is coming up just 9 days from now, they'll all be back in Tuscaloosa. The new guys like Ryan Williams, that haven't been there, they'll be moving into Bryant Hall around June 1st. And then they'll start working out as a team in June and July in terms of working with Alabama strength and conditioning coaches, doing some individual work I believe they can do with their position coaches in a minor sense. But they'll all rejoin together as a team starting June 1st.
Boy, and this is something for our podcast that we're going to do, like just the state of college football. And, for those who go, it's locked on Bama. Well, Alabama plays college football. But, when I'm looking at these dudes and I'm hearing what you're saying, and now they're making enough money to buy their own trainers or pay their own trainers and, go on their own trips across the country to do whatever they need to do. I mean, I just wonder, are they ever going to be kids again? I'm serious. I mean, there's something about watching these guys mature, through their 4 years. And we already don't get to see that because so many of them transfer anyway. But now we're going to get to see it even less because soon as they get to whatever school they're going to, they're going to hire a trainer and they're going to look like a fourth-year NFL vet by the time they're sophomores. And again, that's just, it's the way of the world. We can't change it. But boy, I'm definitely going to be talking about that and complaining about that, by the way, when we do our next thing. But right now, I need to tell everybody about Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. I love Yahoo Finance. I've got a few different accounts spread out, because we're just rolling it over here at Locked On Bama. And so I need Yahoo Finance. Anywho, that's a lie. But let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising cost of inflation, and that's rising every day, y'all, to pay off your debt or mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you and your financial freedom. With Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, the data, the tools, all that stuff you need to reach your financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every single great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you're looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, and that's yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. All right, let's get it back into the countdown, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here to Justin Okoronkwo, who is a podcast favorite. This is a Ryan Williams podcast, but it's sort of like the subtitle is Justin Okoronkwo because we're really fired up about him. We're fired up about what he brings to the table. We just hope he doesn't transfer back to Europe or something after 1 year.
Yeah, I'm excited about him. So much to say about him. We have said consistently, we've covered all the freshman inside linebackers now, and Justin is the last of four. We talked about QB Reese very early. Then we talked about Caden Jones. Then we talked about Sterling Dixon, and then we talked about Caden Jones. Okoronkwo is the fourth one. I still have him here on the list as a projected redshirt, but I've said all along, I think one of the four will play, and I think Luke agrees with me. One of the four freshman inside linebackers will end up playing and not redshirting. I think Okoronkwo is probably the one most likely that plays. And that's sort of crazy in the sense that he's got so much of college football to learn. This is the kid that didn't play high school football in America like these other kids. And he's had to do a lot of learning of football on his own in Germany, and everything from the terminology to the schemes to living in the United States to English being the primary language and not German. All this stuff he has to go through. And why would I project him not to redshirt? Well, because I watched the A-Day game. That's why. I just saw it on A-Day. He, to me, clearly looked like the best of the four, at least the best in terms of a guy who could play quickly. His physical skill set is extremely impressive. He just has a lot to learn fundamentally. The game's going to move quicker in real games. It's going to be more complicated when he plays offenses that aren't scaled down and simple like the A-Day offense he faced. But Okoronkwo looked to me ahead of where he would be projected to be. Physically, A+. I mean, the way he's built, the way he can run. I'm super excited about him in the long run. I still think we will see him on a very limited basis in 2024. But I think, Luke, he is a dark horse to be a starter in 2025. I think that could realistically or legitimately happen.
Yeah, I'm muted. Sorry.
Oh, well, you didn't appear.
Did a funny interaction with a fan. He found me on Facebook and sent me a message and just said, "Hey, love the show," whatever. And he said, and I replied back, and he said, "Well, you had to reply back because you couldn't say it back because you mute yourself." I said, I know.
This is your global reputation.
This is my legacy for my children. That's what's unfortunate.
Maybe on your tombstone, we'll put nothing on your tombstone. It will just be blank. Your tombstone will be on mute.
Anyway, I don't even think that's funny. Anyway, all right. So Justin Okoronkwo, I am curious though, and we've already mentioned this is a subtitle Justin Okoronkwo podcast. Boy, you got him a bunch above some dudes in the countdown that I would argue might play before him. And I mean, I find it interesting. Do we just love him that much as an athlete?
Well, I mean, at this portion of the rankings myself, when I rank the guys at this portion, I still have him in the projected redshirt. Everybody we've talked about so far on the roster ranking is a projected redshirt. We're just about to the end of those. And from that point, the true freshmen we'll talk about will be guys I fully expect to play. I mean, obviously, I've got Ryan Williams up higher. I got Caleb Odom up much higher. Even Daniel Hill, who I think could be the fourth running back. I got him up higher because I expect to see those guys play in more than 4 games. But I still have Okoronkwo as a projected redshirt. I'm just saying that of the 4 inside linebackers who I'm all projecting to redshirt, I'm probably wrong on one of them. I think one of them will play and end up being, quote, the 5th inside linebacker and a guy you see a lot on special teams. And boy, with his size and speed, Okoronkwo could be a demon on special teams. They might play him just for that. So I'm not going to be shocked at all if he plays, but my guess is projected redshirt. And when I've looked back over the years on these roster rankings, I don't bat 1,000 on projecting redshirts, but largely accurate.
You know what we should do sometime, and this is good summer fodder. When you and I were writing for Crimson Country Club, the old website, we used to do our superlatives for each signing class. I'm going to go back and find like our first superlatives. If I could, I don't even know if I can get to the site anymore, but I'm going to go back and try and find our first superlatives and, just go over those because, when we did those now, those guys have probably, a lot of them have retired from the NFL or never made the NFL at all. So that'd be interesting.
Those guys have grandkids now.
I mean, it's very true. It could very well be. I mean, it's just fun to look back and see about, you talk about batting 1,000 because nobody really ever goes back and goes, who looks back at, a lot of top 25s are coming out now, right? Nobody goes back and looks at, okay, who was your top 25 for 2019? Oh, you missed everybody. Like nobody ever looks back at that. Everybody's always looking forward,
Life moves fast. People don't look back. I mean, I think looking back is fun, and I don't mind. I mean, I tell people all the time. I mean, of course, I write so much on BOL and a lot of predictions and here on the show. And hey, when I'm off on something or I miss something, I don't mind at all being called out on it, for lack of a better term. Because I know going in, I mean, when you do nothing but predict what's going to happen in the future, you're going to be wrong a lot. And I hope everybody understands that, because I think if everybody else was doing these same predictions, they'd be wrong a lot too. Even the coaches would be wrong a lot. If everybody knew exactly what was going to happen, then everybody would make a lot of money in Las Vegas at the sports betting window. If everybody knew exactly what was going to happen, we're all predicting and guessing to an extent. But some of these roster rankings are going to look silly after the season's over, where I think largely, to be based on my look backs, largely they'll be pretty good. But there will be big misses in both directions, where I've got a guy ranked high that just doesn't play a big role or have a big season, and I'll have guys ranked low. I'll tell you one that I did miss a year ago. 1 year ago, a guy I missed terrible was Jaden Roberts. I had Jaden Roberts very low, ended up being a starter, ended up being a star player. This year I got Jaden Roberts ranked super high. Yeah, I had Jaden Roberts down in the 60s, I think, in terms of
my. But I'm saying he's a bona fide Bama. He's going to be one of the guys that comes back to campus and talks about Alabama. And there's some dudes that just don't do all that stuff, but he's going to be one of those dudes.
Yeah, he's a little gumpy. His mom's a great follow.
As they
His
say.
mom is a great follow on Twitter. She talks about Jaden all the time. She's quite proud of her son, as she should be.
Yeah, she is a definite good follow. And if I can ever find what I'm supposed to do next, then okay, here it is. So I know this is great radio for everybody. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to tell everybody about FanDuel, if I can ever get this right. What I really hope is that the bosses that be over at Tegna are like, let's randomly listen to a podcast and see how our hosts are doing. They pick today's. But FanDuel, look, you love FanDuel. I love FanDuel. We all love FanDuel. And the NBA playoffs are hot and heavy, and the NHL playoffs too. I don't watch any of that, but I watch the NBA. And it's a lot of fun. Last night, Dallas got a big win. If you were on FanDuel, you could have a lot more fun with that game. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. And FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to spend on spreads, money lines, player props, and much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's number one sportsbook, and America is FanDuel's number one country. How about that? I screwed that up, but whatever. That's what we'll roll with. I hope I don't get a letter from FanDuel saying they love Canada. Okay, so now we are to another interesting one. And again, it's your countdown. It's your funeral. Do what you want. But I find it interesting. You've got Kevin Riley ahead of Justin Okoronkwo, because if I'm a betting man, I feel like Okoronkwo plays more next year than Kevin Riley does, especially after just looking at that picture of Richard Young and Justice Haynes, not Jam Miller. I mean, when I looked at those two guys, I was like, OMG. Those are some dudes.
In ranking Kevin Riley this high, I don't normally do this. Of course, the roster ranking this time of the year we talk about a lot is a lot about projection and prediction. But the reason I have Kevin Riley, by the way, who I'm still have him as a projected redshirt, 4 games or less. He's still in the projected redshirt area. However, I have him high among the projected redshirts because I do think there's a decent chance that we will see quite a bit of Kevin Riley. Why? Number one, he's a really good player. I mean, this is a really good player. He's probably one of the guys in the class we don't talk about enough about how good he is and what a significant player he can be for us down the road. I comp him, for instance, my comp for him is Kenyon Drake. Now, I think this is why we might see a lot of Kevin Riley, because there are injuries at running back all the time. I think that that's a position where you can almost count on a player or two missing games because they're hurt. And if so, your 5th running back can easily become your third running back in a single week. It could easily happen to where 1 week he's redshirting, the next week he's your third running back. I'm not going to be surprised at all if Kevin Riley plays quite a bit. Excuse me. Plus, he can be such a good special teams player. I think Kevin Riley on special teams could be fantastic. Nick Saban used running backs on numerous different special teams roles, and Kevin Riley can be a good coverage guy. He's physical. He's fast as heck. He'll be one of the fastest players on the team the day he shows up. I think he could be heck on special teams. And I do think I'm, again, projecting a red shirt. I think Kevin Riley might play quite a bit, and I think is going to be a star football player at Alabama down the road.
You're right about running backs and special teams. Boy, I mean, what a comp. I mean, Kenyon Drake, that's something. Now, again, we're biased because we now know Kenyon Drake's been in the pros for a while. Does he have a team right now, by the way?
No, I don't think he's currently signed. I don't think so.
You know, that is, I want him to get signed, and I want Julio to get signed somewhere. Julio's not signed anymore. But anyway, going back to Kevin Riley, I do think he's a speedster. I would like to see him be able to catch the same way that Kenyon Drake could. I mean, when I think Kenyon Drake, I think two things: the kickoff return. I mean, I never really think of him at running back, honestly. I think about the kickoff return against Clemson for the national championship, and I think about the catch he had against Florida on like the first play, offensive play of the game for Alabama. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I remember Gary Danielson, as soon as the play began to develop, he goes, "Oh, geez," you know, like, he could see it because he was way up there in the bird's nest. But anyway, yeah, I like Kevin Riley a lot. I'm super thankful that people forget we flipped him from Miami. But boy, and again, we're picking nits when you're talking about who's number 72, who's number 73 or whatever. But I don't see a way for him on the field outside of special teams this year, unless he comes in and is super special. When I look at Justice Haynes, I look at a guy that I think is going to be a future All-American and maybe about to be a current All-American. And then I'm like, okay, I know how good Jaylen Milroe can be. And then I see the picture of Richard Young. I'm like, holy cow. I mean, that is
we got a great situation at running back. That's why that's why I'm projecting Kevin Riley as running back number 5 to redshirt. And we redshirted Richard Young. For those say running backs no redshirt, we just redshirted Richard Young in the past class. So that's why I'm projecting Kevin Riley to redshirt. But I do have him higher than several other players, specifically because maybe he doesn't redshirt. Maybe he's too good to redshirt. Maybe he's too good on special teams to redshirt. Maybe a running back or two ahead of him gets banged up. We have to remember just 3 seasons ago, Luke, we had running backs hurt to the point we had to switch DeMoy Kennedy and Christian Leary to running back just to finish a season because, boy, running backs, it can start – the sprained ankles can start piling up there. So that's why I have Kevin Riley this high, because running backs get hurt and running backs are such good special teams players. By the way, when you're talking about I hope he can catch the ball, I comp Kevin Riley to Kenyon Drake, who could catch the ball well. To show you how well Kevin Riley – they think he can catch it. Robert Gillespie, the Alabama running back coach, he comped Kevin Riley to Jahmyr Gibbs, who we just recently had in the program, and thinks Riley can be a Jahmyr Gibbs type. And Jahmyr Gibbs, for a running back, is almost a receiver first, right? I mean, it's like his best trait is catching the ball. So I do think Kevin Riley will prove to be, over the course of his career, a major weapon out of the backfield catching the ball.
Hey, look, I love it. I hope you're right. And here's one more plea before we go. Hey, Detroit, don't have a slip-up year. Man, keep it going, because you got too many Bammers on that team, and we got to keep watching you. And I'm super fired up. You know what else I just found out? We should have talked about this in the first segment with the sorted news. Do you know Carolina's the only team this year that doesn't have a primetime game?
I did know that, and that should tell us about, that NFL schedule came out about a week or so ago. That should tell us about their low expectations. You can count on who's going to win, who's going to be a playoff or Super Bowl team, who's got the most stars by who's on those NFL primetime games. But, yes, the Panthers are the only team in the NFL that will not appear on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. That should show that low expectations for a team that's picked at the top for a couple years in a row, probably picking at the top again this upcoming fall. or upcoming spring.
The beautiful thing is, the thing about low expectations is you're never disappointed.
Well, Panthers fans are disappointed a lot these days. Did you see the picture we were talking about Alabama players and how impressive they look after their offseason workouts? Bryce Young has added significant muscle and size this offseason, I guess at the direction of the new coach, Dave Canales. There, Bryce Young never really hit the weights at Alabama by design. But apparently the new coaching staff of the Panthers wanted Bryce heavier and stronger. And, man, he looks like $1 million. Looks like a different kid.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. That is, I mean, look, I don't know how many, if we can put pictures up, and I don't even know what we can do anymore. So legally, so y'all go check out. Just Google Bryce Young looking buff or something. Don't Google. There's no telling what'll come up. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more, probably just a whole podcast on what we think is going on with the state of college football. But until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.